Hello, you tea freaks. Welcome to another episode of TDB, episode number beep. We don't actually know. Sorry guys, but I think it's before 500, so greater than 450 and less than 500. I think that's safe to say. Puts us within the air margins.
Yeah.
So today we are brewing a White2Tea ripe. The reading room is what it's called. So this is like kind of a type of tea that's usually a little more daily drinkery, but this one is not a daily drinker ripe in terms of price at least. This cake is 200 grams, so it's a small cake, costs $180 around for this. So I bought a sample, thought it'd be an interesting, fun one to bring on. So nearly $1 a gram ripe. Pretty rare to have tea cost that much in this category.
Yep.
Unlike raw. I'm curious to dig in. I think this one's a lighter fermentation, right? But I don't totally recall. So,
Looks good. Very clean.
yeah, poured that one out for you, Rinse Drinker 42.
Boom. Yeah. You're right. This is kind of an uncommon price point.
Yeah, for sure. That being said, it's like one of those things where you can definitely kind of do the mental gymnastics, and it's like, well, this session of 5 grams is only $4.80, so. And that's
Under
also
$5.
That's also where you can end up in trouble.
I mean, I think it's, yeah.
It's just you need to be able to. Well, if you start buying a lot of $5 sessions, then it can add up very
right.
fast.
Exactly. Yeah. Not a bad thing to have a $5 session once a month with a good friend,
or even more often.
Yeah. But
once you're buying a tong of $5 sessions, then that's all. That is a fair bit of money, Cheerio.
cheerio.
Here's to the $5 session. It's been a while since we brought, this is interesting, a White2Tea tea onto the show, I think. Yeah. Texturally interesting. It's like thicker.
Very thick.
I definitely feel like it's a little bit more full-noted, not totally bassy notes like a lot of ripes are. I was having some dye ripe this morning, and that one is far more kind of standard. Look at this face.
Yeah.
This is a face that's going to come up with some fancy words.
Oh gosh.
Let the man cook.
Very different.
No,
Very different.
Yeah, we were just talking about the last tea, how it's like very much a daily drinker and kind of stays steady. I have a feeling this tea is going to change a lot as we steep it.
Yeah, base notes are very almost a little charcoaly. Not nearly as like woody in terms of those sort of like earthy notes to me. It's really interesting,
and it's got a nice brightness to it that kind of like raises the register from what you'd expect. It's not like a oolong or anything, but
I'm trying to place those sort of higher notes. I'm struggling.
It's got a hint of that cherryness, but it's not exactly the same either.
God, it's dark. Well, yeah, Let's get on the nose in here.
Interesting. I feel like nose-wise, it's a little more typical. I can't say I get like a ton of like super interesting fragrances. A little different than normal, but what do you got?
I mean, it's not a bad thing, but I'm getting this like distinct swimming pool locker smell.
Okay.
Okay, which is very weird.
Like community pool, high school.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's go swim in the community pool with White2Tea. A little bit of Mary Waite in there. That's a local reference for you guys.
Oh man, very interesting. What's the year on this?
Recent, 2023.
So, I really wonder, because this is kind of one of those teas that tastes ready to drink now.
Oh yeah. Might evolve to be interesting, just because it's like not totally bassy notes too.
Right.
So I don't know. I have no idea how it's gonna age. So far, no bitterness or anything like that. A nice lingering sweetness to it, I will say. I mean, you could definitely tell that this ripe uses higher quality materials than average.
The texture on it is just insane. Really good. Much more of that depth now. I'm gonna read the water.
Yeah, and I think when you're having these sorts of teas like this, it's absolutely worth $5. I mean, like it's it's not even close. I mean, it's certain, like, especially when you can sit down, discuss it with friends and stuff.
Yeah,
like it's no real question of
really, really good residual strength and flavor. Charcoaly to me.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
And then the high notes I'm not placing.
Fruity?
Not in a classic way.
Woody? Little?
Like a little bit.
Wood chips?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's keep going.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, like, this is
interesting.
I suspect this is the sort of ripe that we can brew for a while, and it'll continue to be interesting. But yeah, really notable. Just kind of what sticks in the mouth. It kind of leaves this sort of sticky, sweet feeling in the mouth too. Kind of like almost syrup.
Yeah.
So yeah, what is your brewing methodology for this?
I just want to. So I just reboiled the water just because I want to like really push.
Yeah.
And this tea especially is tasting like a tea that can handle that really well, and it's getting quite dark. So just trying to get into the not even like race ahead to the flavors, but just really see kind of the limits of the tea. So pushing it with boiling water early on, still keeping the steeping pretty short, but just to see how far it goes. Cheerio. Gosh, it's like they talk about wine, about like the run of the wine as you move it on the glass, and if how slowly does it sort of like go back down to the bottom of the glass. It's like similarly, this is so viscous.
Yeah. Rosewood.
Ooh, it's getting into that classic ripe flavor now for me. A little vanilla now.
I'm actually getting a bit of bitterness to it now too, so that might be a little bit of that fermentation. Not heavily bitter like some materials can get, but
really clean. I feel like really there's no muddled flavors. It comes together as like well balanced, but also there's not that kind of like funky. You can kind of get that funkiness in the ripe sometimes.
Yeah, I'm gonna say mom test no. Ultralight test, no, just in the sense of being a bad value, not that it wouldn't perform well.
Right.
But good, certainly passed the T-nerd test.
Totally. Really interesting. Yeah, to your point about it getting a little bit more bitter, now maybe I could see aging it, or at least having it hang out for a while, maybe a couple years. It tastes drinkable, like really ready now.
I think it's certainly an engaging session. In fact, I have a hard time understanding exactly how ripe can age. I can understand why you would age it a little bit, but it's like not exactly like a rough session.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean maybe something that we have brought into the show that was the material was just jet fuel, then maybe you want to age out some of the intensity there, but that's kind of the idea of ripe. Exactly.
And honestly, it's like if you are jet fuel and you're super bitter as a ripe, is a few more years of Western storage going to do anything to that? It's like I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. And again, it's just kind of hard to even get to a jet fuel-y base material after you've actually fermented using the, inoculated with the right process.
Yeah.
The color is beautiful. Yeah. Interesting.
Well, cheers to White2Tea.
Yeah, thank you.
Consistently making interesting teas.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bitterness setting in a little more. I'm getting some vanilla tones to it. A little more in those classic creamy flavors. It's not changing as wildly as I thought, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, just because the flavor profile is very interesting on its own.
It's really good. It just feels like a classic ripe, but in all of the depth of the flavors, really. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like a ripe plus. It's really nice. Good balance. Really quite a juicy and strong residual flavor.
Woody, creamy.
Yeah. Oh my god. Julian copies that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. He'll purposely fling stuff on the ground and then go, ay.
He's gonna be a troll.
Oh yeah. Anyway, man. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, very tasty.
Still very strong. What's your philosophy on samples for kind of nicer stuff versus going for it and getting something that's kind of a bigger quantity? Do you typically kind of always go sample first? Do you ever decide, hey, this is reputable enough, or I know enough about this region or this vendor or this?
These days, I'm not buying tea in that huge of quantity.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, that's probably the biggest reason, because I already have tea in big enough quantity. So, I mean, for the most part, it's like, oh, this sounds interesting to drink and then bring on the show. So I'm happy to buy a sample. I mean, when you're talking about quantities of sample, I'm totally fine spending, a decent amount of money, assuming it's reasonable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, historically, I just haven't picked up much bougie ripe in quantity. If it's interesting enough, maybe I'll pick up a cake. Mm-hmm. That being said, would I pick up a cake of this? I don't know. It's interesting for sure, but I don't know if I, at this point in my life, if I have enough time for interesting sessions like this where I can, like, have it ideally. And it's not quite the same having it on your own.
And the thing, too, about it is, unfortunately, ripe, there isn't such a difference in... I mean, this is a really, really good tea. But the difference in... The delta in quality, the difference in quality between a raw pu'erh and a really good raw pu'erh is a much bigger difference, in my opinion, than, like, ripe to ripe.
Which is why... Typically, this material would probably be for raw.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also when you're doing a session with a friend, if they're just getting into tea, they're not probably going to be as excited or interested in noticing the interesting complexities of this specific ripe. You and I both drink ripe daily.
Yeah.
So this is something that's like, oh, wow, this is nice.
Also, to some extent, it's another interesting dynamic, I think, is the fact that because they press so much of, like, these high-end materials into raw, it's almost fresh when you have it in, like, a ripe, even though maybe it is, like, a little bit less of a lower ceiling option, just because we've had, like hundreds of high-end raws at this point.
Yeah.
Having something that's, like, really good material in a ripe...
Interesting.
I've had a lot less.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's an interesting... This to me is a ripe drinker's tea, specifically. Not just a tea nerd, but you really want to be into ripe.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Like, in fact, if you're a raw drinker, maybe you'll like this, maybe you won't. Because, like, if you're not drinking ripe that often, you might have a hard time telling what's special about this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
it's like, you and I drink it every day. So it's like, I can tell that this is a unusually very good quality ripe tea.
Yeah, I'm super curious to see how this... ends up. I think I might actually have to get a sample of this, frankly.
Oh, yeah?
Okay. Yeah, I think my buddy John would really enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, this is the sort of tea if you do have friends that really like ripe, and it's like, I got one that will, like, show you something a little different.
Right. So check out White2Tea. I haven't had anything bad from them. I mean, they're small. It's a small operation at this point still, and so anything you're grabbing from them is probably going to be great. White2Tea.com, I think. Give them a Google. tdb.org for our subscribe to YouTube, blah, 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 blah. Send this to your cat's favorite Twitch streamer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And wait out for the ridiculous thumbnail we're going to have on this video.
Oh, my God. All right.
It's going to be like a cardboard cutout like this.
Oh, God. Okay. Until then, we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Peace.